Good afternoon. Welcome to the fifth and last episode of this series. The last few weeks have been a journey around the continent, touching on topics that are close to our day-to-day lives, from empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs to powering the continent through clean energy. We have seen the potential that this continent has and the heroes who are working tirelessly to forge a better future for Africa. My name is George Mutero, and I'll be your captain for this flight for the next 1.5 hours. Today, we wrap up the discussion with a powerful topic: overcoming the unique barriers of African women entrepreneurs that African entrepreneurs face. The panel is filled with innovators, business-oriented and success-chasing entrepreneurs. A sign that this will be an epic discussion. So hang in for that in a few minutes. But first, let's start by watching their impactful stories. Remember, this is your watch party too, so feel free to invite your friends to join and engage with us here on Facebook at yebo.live, on Twitter at yebo_live, and on Instagram at yebo.live. See you shortly after these videos.
Today, more than 1 billion women are left out of the global financial system. Yet, we know that societies that empower women to participate fully in civic and economic life are more stable, secure, and prosperous. That's why the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs at the U.S. Department of State has established the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, or AWE.
The AWE program takes outstanding women entrepreneurs and gives them the tools they need to build and sustain their businesses. Through this initiative, we've asked U.S. government agencies and departments to come together to prioritize enabling women to succeed in their local economies. You embody the spirit of the future, and I look forward to seeing your successes as you influence the world for the better.
AWE is enabling thousands of women in countries all over the world to turn their great ideas into successful businesses with the support of an inclusive learning community.
The Academy for Women Entrepreneurs are going to bring tremendous opportunities for women to not only be trained, but to network among themselves to produce a brighter future. As you build women's ability to be economically independent, there are good things that happen in society. And this is just another one of the benefits of the U.S. government doubling down and really investing in AWE.
AWE is built on a powerful 3-part strategy that provides women with the tools they need to create and grow successful business ventures. First, AWE employs a high-quality online business planning curriculum which has been used by U.S. embassies to train women entrepreneurs with great success. In addition to online coursework, AWE participants meet regularly with facilitators and business leaders to tailor their learning based on local needs. Secondly, AWE helps participants develop networks and mentoring relationships that can provide ongoing advice and support throughout their entrepreneurship journey. And finally, AWE supports women gaining access to the capital they need to start and grow their businesses. As part of the White House's Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative, AWE is committed to providing women the knowledge, networks, and access they need to turn their business ideas into reality.
Being here was a tremendous honor and great opportunity to bring the message of WGDP, our first all-of-government effort to empower 50 million women economically by 2025. So we're incredibly excited about the implementation of this vast new initiative. It was very productive time spent here talking about issues relating to the United States and our commitment to Ethiopia.
These problems are local problems that need to be addressed on a local level. It's exciting to be able to come here to Africa and talk about the unique opportunities and the unique challenges that face female entrepreneurs in this country and on this continent. Because when Africa is empowered, we all rise together, and women are the greatest under-leveraged resource in the developing world.
My name is Brenda Katwesije. I am the CEO of Wazi Vision. I'm really passionate about healthcare in Uganda. So what we do is providing more affordable eye care, especially to children in low-income areas. I just thought that if this is the case for everybody, then what happens for the kids that are in not well-to-do areas? What do they do? If I could give them something more affordable that they could, and then it would help them improve their grades in school or something, then that would go a long way in helping them. That funding meant everything for the company. Without it, I don't know how far we would be. Maybe we would have made a bit of progress, but not as much as we've done. So far, we have reached out to more than 2,000 children. 420 of those, as of now, have received glasses. So we want to add maybe another 12 schools, yeah. And within the next couple of months. Our glasses are unique because currently we do recycled plastic. So it's all plastic bottles that we get, basins, cups, plates, whatever plastic really. The Mandela Washington Fellowship was really monumental in my life. I just went through this whole personal transformation, just interacting with people, learning. So for me, when I came back, actually, I just felt like I could do anything. That's how I felt, and that's the effect the fellowship has, I think, on everyone.
In July 2018, I decided I wanted to start my own business. It was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever made. I had a good job, I was employed. But now I decided I wanted to be my own boss, I wanted to change things. I decided I wanted to do food processing. So while I was deciding I want to do food processing, peanut butter came to mind. I love peanut butter, but I didn't have enough capital to buy the equipment that was needed and to start the business. I had saved a bit of money while I was employed. I then wrote a business plan, and when I did my business plan, I realized the money that I needed to procure the equipment and the money that I had wasn't enough. So I approached the banks. I went and saw my banker, and she says to me, you know what? You said you're leaving your job. The only loan that you can get is a salary-based loan. We won't be able to give you that because you won't be having any salary. Unless you have a collateral, then if you have collateral, then we can give you the money you're looking for. But at that point in my life, I didn't have any collateral. So I approached a few other banks, and the story was the same. Then one day I'm speaking to my friends about my dream and what I want to achieve. Someone then suggests, why don't you go and see Ville Microfinance? It was founded by 2 women, and I'm sure they would love to empower other women as well. So I went to Ville Microfinance the first day. I tried to get an appointment, but I couldn't see them. The next day, I managed to sit down with them. I showed them my business plan, and the first question that they asked was, do you have collateral? I didn't have collateral. I told them I didn't have any collateral. Fortunately, I told them that I had money that I had saved, and if we buy the equipment together, the equipment was going to be collateral, and as soon as I finished paying them off, the equipment will then belong to me, and that was asset financing. Ville held my hand at that particular moment when no one else could. They decided to finance the machinery. We managed to buy the machinery and started our first production. That was July 2013. So while we started producing, I realized that I did not even have enough money to supply even the small little shops that I wanted to start with. So I then went back to them and I said, you know what, with the money that I have, I'm still trying to pay back the loan. At the same time, I'm still trying to service the market, and it's not working out for me. Then they said, okay, we'll give you working capital. That's the second product that I worked with. I still had that asset financing loan with them, and they topped it up with working capital. So I started working with them, and I was paying off their working capital. And because they constantly believed in women empowerment, and in growing my business as well. One day I was having a conversation with my Gwenzi from Vale. She then says to me, where are you getting your groundnuts for you to make this peanut butter? Then I told her that we were working with rural women farmers who were growing their groundnuts and they were selling to us. Then Vale said to me, you know what? We can give you what we call value chain financing. We'll go back to your women farmers, we'll sit down with them, and we'll find out how much we can give them so that they can improve their productivity. And I thought this was a life-changing moment in my life. I've always wanted to see these women grow. I've always wanted to see them feed their families. You know, back home, women are the backbone of the society. They are the ones who make sure that there's food on the table for their families. So with Vale coming in, assisting to give them seed and fertilizer so that they can improve their productivity, that really changed their lives, because their productivity also went up, and at the same time our productivity at Nutri-Foods also increased. So while we were growing with these women and Nutri was growing, we decided we wanted to package sugar beets. Then we also did the corn nuts. This is the chili corn nuts. We did the chili corn nuts, and also we had the salted corn nuts. We then moved on and decided we wanted to do jams as well. So we have our marmalade jam, we have our mixed fruit jam, and we have honey as well. In all this, Vale felt we were leaving behind our employees. Nutri was growing, the women, the value chain was now stronger, but what about the people who were working in the factory? So Vale came up with a life-enhancing product, which I thought it was an amazing product, because no matter how much someone is earning, it enables them to be able to cover their costs, to pay up the loan amount that's required, and they'll still remain with something that they can use for their families, and they've also grown in their own personal capacity and in their own lives, and I'm so grateful. I'm happy we're having this talk today because it's the International Women's Month, and the theme for this year is Balance for Better. Vale has managed to balance for better in the city and in the rural areas. They've managed to finance these women, and they've managed to change their lives. We all need to forget about what someone has to offer for us to be able to help them. We need to concentrate on the passion. We need to concentrate on the dream. We need to concentrate on the integrity, and this world will be a better place.
I'm Abatumukiti, and I'm a mathematician turned impact entrepreneur. I'm the founder of a company called Mathemaniacs and also a nonprofit called Dream Girls Academy. What I do is I design and implement strategies for corporations to invest in sustainable and highly impactful STEM education in rural and disadvantaged areas. I started this business 14 years ago as a young 20-something-year-old, and I really wanted to do good for not only my country but for the continent. And so what I came across is that a lot of nonprofits and social entrepreneurs are doing great work in Africa, but a lot of them are not measuring the impact that they're doing from the very beginning. So when they come up to corporates or foundations for funding, the big question is always, what are you doing? How are you measuring the impact? Who are they? And so a lot of people don't start doing that from the beginning. I wanted to help social entrepreneurs and nonprofits to start measuring their impact from the very beginning, in fact at inception stage and not at the end, so that they could then tell a story about how they've changed lives. Because for me, social impact is about telling a story, and how are they aligning all of this to the Sustainable Development Goals? Are they reaching the Sustainable Development Goals? Because ultimately that's why we do what we do as social entrepreneurs. We want to make sure that we're contributing to a bigger goal, to a bigger story, and that's really what I do. The work that I do through Dream Girls Academy is really, it's to impact young girls and females. 60% of the population on the continent is youth, but a very big percentage of that is also female. So I want to ensure that more females were being impacted, more females were doing sustainable work on the continent, and also just to get more young girls and females into the STEM industry, because it is male dominated. And so my life's work is really about how can we bring sustainable solutions to the people on the ground and make sure that they're impacting the people that they're supposed to be impacting. And that's really been my life's work over the past 14 years, and it's the work that I continue to do, just to ensure that the work that we as Africans do is not only designed for Africans, but really it tells a story of impact on the African soil and on the African level as well.
The risk takers, the misfits, the dreamers. Entrepreneurship is glorious on the outside, but feels like a high-intensive interval training workout. And the ladies on the panel today are the heroes of this lifelong journey to keep businesses running. I'm happy to be joined by Brenda Katwesije, who is the co-founder and CEO of Wazi Vision, a company in Uganda that designs and manufactures eyewear from recycled materials. Brenda is passionate about creating sustainable and affordable solutions for critical healthcare challenges, and has to date reached over 6,000 plus Ugandans, especially children, with affordable eye care. In 2019, Brenda was mentioned on the New Wealth Creators list by Forbes Africa and is an alumni of Vodafone Flynn program, a 2018 Westell Foundation Fellow, and a 2016 Mandela Washington Fellow. She has previously served on the Regional Advisory Board of the Young African Leadership Initiative, which is YALI. We are also joined by Njeri Mbote. Jerry is a 27-year-old self-taught designer and co-founder of VA Kenya. She is a business management graduate from Mount Kenya University here in Kenya. She has been selling shoes since she was 25. Having a passion for shoes and getting into the shoe industry was quite an exciting prospect for her. And through observation at local artisan markets and using online resources, Jerry taught herself the art of designing footwear. She's a believer that our feet deserve dignity of having shoes made for us, by us, and with us in mind. And that's why she has been designing shoes with Africa and Africans in mind. We are also joined by Mabato Mukiti, and Mabato is a mathematician who turned to be an entrepreneur with a passion for education and youth development. She started a career as an entrepreneur at the age of 20, and she started by starting a mentoring or rather tutoring company. She believes in purposeful life and using her talents to serve others. That's why she started Dream Girls Academy, as she has mentioned in the video. She's a female, the organization, Dream Girls Academy, is a female empowerment and mentoring organization that empowers women through various impactful programs that uses mentorship, skills development as a tool, which she co-founded with her friends in 2011. In March of this year, Mabato co-founded Redshift, a technology company that designs technology platforms that allow people and businesses from emerging markets to operate at the best using technology. Bato believes in power of education as a tool to break the cycle of poverty and is determined to use her talents and passion to make this possible for those who cannot afford quality education. We are also joined by Melvinia Gueye, who works with the USADF. She works with the External Engagement Department, and she's an external engagement specialist. She works closely with women to increase the access of women entrepreneurs and business owners to finance, market opportunities, and training to establish growth of their businesses and more through the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. And she'll be letting us know more about the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. We're also joined by Nobokusi Ndlovu, who is the co-founder and managing director of NutriFoods in Harare, Zimbabwe. NutriFoods produces predominantly peanut butter products, as well as small grains and dried fish. She started NutriFoods with the mission of empowering rural women through adding value to their produce. She started an empowerment project also that empowers rural girls through a program called Meet the CEO. The program provides a platform for rural girls to spend a day with a female CEO. Let me start with you, Nobokusi. Entrepreneurship is a journey for millions who try their hand in business. Tell us briefly about your journey as an entrepreneur, especially now that you also encourage other young women to meet the CEO.
Thank you, George. Entrepreneurship is one of the most difficult journeys that people on the outside will look at and think it's an easy one. The first hurdle that you face when you are about to become an entrepreneur is thinking about funding. We always have all these amazing ideas, but most of the times we do not know how to fund them. So when I started NutriFoods, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to do value addition on agricultural produce from my village, but I didn't have the money to buy the machinery that I needed to start making the products. So I know there are a lot of young people out there who have so many amazing ideas, and I want to encourage them that they mustn't let lack of funding to derail them or to stop them from achieving their vision. They should start where they are and build from the little that they have. So what I did is, when I had that idea, I was employed by an organization. So I started saving towards my goal. But still the money that I had saved wasn't enough. And you know, with the banking system, you cannot get a loan if you do not have collateral. So it's a hurdle that so many young people then face when they want to start businesses, that you do not have collateral to get a loan and the money that you have is not enough, or you don't have that money. So as I was looking at the situation right now, the advice that I can give young people is, maybe if they start coming into groups with the same vision. I know it's difficult to come together with someone to say, let's do this project. If they don't have the same vision with you, it might not come to fruition. But if you get someone who has the same vision with you and who's willing to work as smart as you are to achieve your goal, it will work out, and you bring the funds together. Or you can approach the microfinances. I know their lending rates are pretty high, but most microfinances are always willing to lend better than banks, especially when you do not have collateral. And I was also looking, when you want to start a business or to grow a business, whereby you look at external funding from other companies or corporates, that you can come together and say, can you fund my project? Then at a certain stage, you agree that at a certain stage, when the business is grown, then they can draw their funding.
and main holder if that's what you want. It's quite a difficult one when starting a business, but as long as you want to achieve that dream, nothing can stop you. I was so fortunate also being a Mandela Washington Fellow. I got a grant of 25,000, which I then used to seed back to the farmers that I work with. When Nutri started, our main product was peanut butter. So we're buying the groundnuts from rural women farmers. And in the rural areas, they hardly have new seed. So they always recycle their old seed. So getting that grant, we managed to fund these farmers to get new seed and to get fertilizer and to just boost their productivity. And it also led to a growth at Nutri-Foods as well. So if you are starting a business, and I always preach about this, if you're honesty and you have integrity, your business idea will grow because people are willing to work with people that they can trust. And most of the times when you're starting up, it's always about trust and how you handle yourself so that people can trust you with their money. So make sure that as much as you have your dream and you have all your ideas written down, make sure you're also trustworthy enough, or you're also honest enough for people to put their hand to you, knowing that you pay it back. So, George, all I can say is people mustn't be derailed or stopped from dreaming because they do not have the money. They must go ahead and do what they can. And with the little that they have, they can reach a better place in life. So I know of a lot of people that started selling to us. Someone would come and say, I just have one bag of groundnuts, which is 50 kgs. And I can tell you those people, some of them are now selling to us 3 tons, 4 tons, 5 tons, because they were persistent. They didn't stop because I can only afford to have 150 kg. They kept growing and they kept doing what they can to grow from where they are. And now they're selling to us 3 tons. So I've noticed that nothing can stop anyone from achieving their dream as long as they want to.
Whatever you said is very important. Someone once said that to grow a business, you don't need a lot of money. You need an idea that works so that money can come around. Let me talk to Jerry. At 27, very young, and you've thrown yourself into this sea of sharks called entrepreneurship. How has the journey been for you so far?
Thank you, George. So I'm just gonna give a brief about my whole journey as an entrepreneur. I started when I was 25. That was right after campus. And when I started selling shoes, initially I was just selling shoes to get by. I had just finished campus and I needed some money to get me by. So when I started selling these shoes, I was in the informal sector. I would just go to Facebook. But once I started selling these shoes, it started to open up to a very big gap that we actually have in the market. Initially starting, it was very personal. My co-founder is a size 43 lady, size 43 male. So she literally has had problems getting shoes in all of her adult life. And then I remember we started getting requests from everyone, like from all across the country, because we sell online. So we were getting requests to actually customize shoe sizes. There were so many people, it opened up to the gap that there are so many outlier sizes in the market. What do I mean by outlier sizes? These are sizes that do not fit the standard sizes that we actually have in this market. I'm sure you have all noticed that we have US sizes, we have UK sizes, we have Chinese sizes, but we don't have a single African size. This is the reason why there are so many people who are left out, people who have to do with shoes that actually do not fit them, shoes that it leads to people having corns and all that. Like, I mean, when you designed using US fit, UK fit. So this begs the question, who is doing it for Africans? That is the question that is what gave us our why. Initially, I was just selling shoes, but that is what led me to actually now form this brand that makes shoes for Africans. So we came together and we decided not to start working on solving this problem and embarking on this ambitious project of actually dignifying African fit by creating the first template for African sizes. So I remember we started looking for an artisan we can work with in terms of where we are actually involved in the production process. Because initially when we were working with the artisans from the informal sector, we did not have a hand on that, and that was actually be able to solve this problem. So we looked for an artisan. I remember it was very hard because initially there's a status quo like in the informal sector where there are the artisans and the brokers. Because when we started, I was just buying and selling. You can say I was initially just a broker, and I was not coming in with exactly a financial might where I'm going to say that I want to be a part of the production process, giving a large order. No, I'm just coming with my one order per day. So requesting to be involved in the production process, that was really challenging, but where there's a will, there's a way. So we found one artisan who was willing to work with us. His name was Jose, and I'll forever him. For the 6 months that we worked with him, it was we got to do trial and errors with different materials and being able to customize sizes. So we worked with him for 6 months. Then after 6 months, we had saved up a few some coins. Then I remember my family topped up, and we were able to open our first workshop. On opening our first workshop, we had a very huge problem with artisans. In the industry right now, we have very few skilled artisans, and most of them are entrenched in the Juakali industry. Juakali is the informal sector. So for a whole year, we had a very huge problem retaining artisans. You all know when you're starting, you just get by graces and sheer will. So finding artisans who would stay with us during that beginning period of the business, it was very hard. I remember me and my co-founder, we had, she's called Daisy Rono. We actually had to teach ourselves the art of crafting shoes to get by, to fill this gap that we had in artisanry. So we did this for a whole year, but we realized it's really not sustainable. It was not sustainable for us. We were having demand that we could not supply. So we decided to go back to the drawing board and start looking for seed money. I remember when we were looking for seed money, there was this time we were talking with a guy, and he just outright told us, "You are young girls, where do you want to make shoes? Why don't you just open a boutique just like any other girl in town?" But that did not dampen our spirits. And you know, one thing about ambitious women, anytime someone tells you that you can't do something, you make sure that you do it, and you do it 5 times fold. So yeah, we went ahead. We did not give up, but we actually were able to find someone who was able to give us seed money. It was actually a client. I remember that time, it was the time of the business where you do everything. You're everything for the business. You're the ones doing production, marketing, deliveries. This is a client we had worked with for like 3 times. And I remember I had delivered the first shoe. My partner Daisy had delivered the second shoe and the third shoe. So at that time he was like, "I would like to speak to the owners of the company. I am interested in what you guys are doing." They were like, "All right, we'll organize a meeting." Then I remember when he showed up to the meeting, he was so surprised, like, "Wow, it's the delivery girls, the founders of the company, you know?" Yeah, and all that. But he was very impressed in what we were doing, and he provided the first seed money for the company. That was in 2019, and that was when we officially registered now our company as a limited liability company. And for the first time, we were able now to hire artisans who we could actually retain. For the first time. And the best part was this gave us now the opportunity, the stability. It gave us the opportunity to grow. I could be able to concentrate on my designing. My partner could not be able to concentrate on marketing, since we could be able to meet this demand, unlike before when we actually had an artisan problem. But let's not forget that these artisans were actually from the informal sector, and the largest thing that is lacking in the informal sector is skill. So we actually had to train and retrain them for a whole year until they were at par with the kind of shoes that we wanted to make. but we actually got there, and the training still continues. It even gave us a chance to actually now start reflecting and revising our business model, where we decided to now start incorporating partner workshops. I mean, workshops in the informal sector. We realized that Kenya will never really live to its full potential if we just grow on our own. What is the point of there being known that Kenya has nice shoes, but Kenya does not have nice shoes? We will never really live to that potential. So we decided, why don't we partner with these artisans from the informal sector? Provide them with training, the training that they need to up their skills, make them understand the importance of actually making shoes, not just make a shoe just because you can make a shoe, but a shoe to serve a specific purpose with Africans in mind, a shoe that will actually solve our problems as artisans. If we grow with these artisans from the ground up, you know, in Kenya, we believe that when we grow together, we succeed together. So we are moving with them, able to improve their shoes. It will be known that Kenya has nice shoes. And now that Kenya has nice shoes, Kenya has the best shoes. Can you imagine the kind of database that we will have from what we collect and what the informal sector collects? It will give us a big database, which will actually create in the end of the day. The main goal is that whoever come with whichever shape of their feet that they come with, we are going to deliver. So yeah, up to now, that is where we are, and we still walk a step closer to dignifying African faith.
And may your dream of, I don't even want to say the next Nike, because I want you to be the first African Kenya brand that everyone will associate with. May that dream come true. You mentioned something about sheer persistence and goodwill. Brenda, I know this is something that you relate with very closely, working with Wazi Vision and helping children with eye care, with eyesight problems access affordable eye care. Take us briefly through your entrepreneurship journey and why Wazi Vision.
Thank you so much, George. And Jerry, I can relate to a lot of the things that you were saying just now. When you talk about wearing multiple hats, you're the delivery person, you're the one that is making the glasses or the shoes. So that's been a very big part of my journey as well. So I started Wazi Vision in 2016, and I was also employed full-time. And I was working for a consulting firm, and every single day you go to the office, you leave at 10 p.m. Of course, your eyes will, give way. So I went to an optical shop, and I realized that a pair of glasses at the time was $160 roughly. My insurance could only cover about half of that. So the rest of it, I had to pay out of pocket. So what does that mean? For me, it wasn't very significant because I was earning quite significantly then. But I thought about, what about people who don't have, insurance? And in Uganda, only about 300,000 out of 42 million people are on formal insurance. So you can go figure, right? So what about people who do not have access to insurance, who do not have jobs, or who are informally employed? What are they doing? So that's when the idea actually came to me. And at that time, it was just an idea. I didn't know what materials I was going to use, and then I started doing more research and vigorously finding out how are other people in the rest of the world doing it. And that's the time that I went to the US for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And when I got there, I met all these amazing minds, and I remember putting in my application for USADF's entrepreneurship fund. I was shocked that I was given the money, but that also presented a new challenge for me. My background, I was consulting. Okay, I am an engineer, but a telecom engineer, so I had absolutely no clue about making glasses, and even the material that I chose, which was plastic waste. I had no clue what plastic waste could even make a pair of glasses. I was 100% clueless. So you can imagine coming back to Uganda, you have this grant and you need to make it work, because when they gave me the money, it was just an idea. And I remember speaking to Michelle in an interview, and she was asking me specifics about my business, and I had absolutely no idea. But now we figured it out, and it took so many things, a lot of iteration, and even the glasses that you saw in the video that played, we've made significant progress since then. So you go and Jerry spoke about, finding artisans, getting somebody who could even make a mold was a headache. It took us about 4 months to just get a lead to somebody that could help us. And then it took us another couple of months just to get the first prototype working. It didn't look like glasses at all. It looked like something else. But it took us a minute to actually then refine that and keep producing. And later on, of course, we finally got to figure out the designs, and me being involved in the process, I could say that I know more about making glasses than I know about consulting or even telecom engineering. So it's been such an interesting journey, but also it's because I was very convicted about what I was doing, because my focus is I'm solving a problem and I know what the problem is. The choice of material, the choice of the process, that could change, but the vision, the end goal, the outcome, I couldn't allow that to change. So of course, and Jerry mentioned, you wear different hats. You produce, then you're the finance guy, you're also the one talking to investors, you're the one sending reports to USADF. You're literally the same person, and as you go along, of course, people start to believe in your mission and they start to rally behind you. Bato just recently, offered to make an introduction. It's amazing, the people that when they hear about your story, they're very excited to actually start opening things up for you. So for me, I feel like entrepreneurship is amazing because there's all these people that are rallying behind you. Like, oh my God, that's amazing what you're doing. I think you need to meet this person. I think you need to meet this person. And all the opportunities that have come to us have been through people that have actually helped us and held our hands to the next level. The other thing that I would say is early on, we thought about sustainability from the beginning. So even though we are running a social business, it's a for-profit business. So we thought about, because we know that the grants sometimes come and sometimes they don't come. So we had to factor that in from the get-go, and that has been quite helpful now, with time as the grants run out. So it helps a lot. But also market research, understanding our market, understanding how much money are they going to be able to pay for these, understanding what is good money, what is bad money, who do you sell to. It's been such a wonderful journey. I quit my job in 2017, and if I went back to 2017, I'd quit it again. So the journey has been. I've learned so much. I can't, now people speak to me and they say, oh my God, you're so brilliant. But I think it's more because when you learn by doing, it's so different from just, sitting in class or just talking to people. It's different. It's a different kind of learning. Yeah.
And we'll be coming back to more of the lessons that you learned, but I see Bato smiling widely. Probably she relates. But when Brenda is talking, she is talking about being convicted and looking for solutions. Although she was an engineer, or rather she is an engineer, she's now working in business. You have a background in mathematics, but you decided to get into business. How's that journey been for you so far?
George, I think a lot of what I do is mathematics. So I'm a problem solver to the core. And running a business and having a business, you are solving a problem. So if you have a business that isn't solving a problem, then you don't have a business, right? And so I always say I'm a problem solver, and my job is to come up with solutions to really allow people to live their best possible lives. And that's really what every single business venture has been about. I think I've been in business now for about almost 16, 17 years that I've been in business, it's really been about that. So for me, my first business, I started in my late teens. I was a university student, and I saw a gap in the market where I was a tutor, but I worked for another company, but I saw a gap in the market and I thought, you know what, I could do the same, but I can do it better, right? And so I started my own tutoring company. I employed my classmates and other science university students from other universities, and really, I was sitting in class and they were going out making money for me. So I made half and they made half. And that's really my first taste at going into business. And that's how I started in my late teens. When I graduated from university, I decided that I'd make this a formal business, and I registered the business. And really from then onwards has been a lot of learning. And everything I've learned in that business has really made my next business better and my next better and my next better, right? And so, when I had the opportunity to go to the US for the fellowship, I came back and I really had a better idea for the business, because I realized that we were servicing kids who could afford the services. And so they could afford to pay those fees, which meant that they were in private schools. So that wasn't my target market. I knew that I wanted to open up the science industry to kids who couldn't afford to get into the sciences. And so we started creating, or rather designing, CSI strategies for corporates. So I went around and I knocked on one corporate's door with an idea to really design their CSI strategy. They said yes. I then took that strategy, implemented it for them, learned my lessons, and sold that model over and over again to a lot of corporates. And that's really what I started doing. I started creating solutions to really encourage corporates to invest in sustainable and impactful solutions for the prosperity of Africa, right? So fast forward now to 2020, we're in lockdown in South Africa because of the pandemic. It's end of March 2020. We're in lockdown and I can't access my favorite grocery store because they don't deliver in my area because of my geographical location. I don't live in a suburban area. And so I really got frustrated. And I remember just being on a call with my business partners and I said, you know, I'm really frustrated. I can't get my favorite grocery store to deliver to my house because for some reason I don't deserve to be delivered to because I don't live in the right geographical location. And when I expressed my frustrations to them, you know, we got off the call, and then an hour later, you know, I called them back and I said, why don't we create something? Why don't we develop an online solution for informal traders to get on so that people like myself and you can then access their services, right? But also, I knew that big businesses, your big chain stores, would make it through lockdown. They're going to make it through the pandemic with no scathe at all. But it's the small SMMEs that will struggle through this pandemic. And so my thing was that, how about we create an online platform for them so that they can continue trading over lockdown, and in that way get introduced to online trading, which is something that's still, Africa's not as progressive as the Western world to it. And it was really a way that this is a solution that will exist post the pandemic, post lockdown, because at some point we're all going to find online shopping quite a convenience, right? And for me to be able to order my milk, my bread, anything that I need from a store that's just 500 meters down the road from me, and then also lower the risk of me contracting the COVID. It's a great solution. And that's really how Redshift came about. And yet again, another solution to a problem, right? Which is really always, that's been my personal motto with business is, am I solving a solution? Am I allowing people to live their best possible lives? Am I allowing people to be economically free? Are they able to then be the best version of themselves in whatever circumstance that they're in? Is this contributing towards the prosperity of Africa?
Mm-hmm. And what you say is very important. Melvinia, when I hear the wonderful ladies speaking, I feel like I'm in a class at the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. I know you work with most of them, you've worked with most of them closely. What is the motivation behind holding the women of the continent who are in business together and helping them move forward?
George, I am so excited to be here this afternoon and to thank you for this most timely forum. And before I answer your question, allow me to say that you are providing perhaps the most necessary and critical component to empowering women on the continent. You are providing information in a forum that everyone can access, and that is just so important. We have heard compelling stories from women who have one thing in common, and that is persistence. They were persistent in their ideas, and they were not turned off by any early setbacks. And I think that that is a part of the message that you are sending to the continent and worldwide. So I thank you so much for this, because I recognize just how important this information is to women, and for people to hear these stories and to understand that the talent is out there. And I'm just so excited for that. Now, in response to your question about the impediments and the various things that I see, at USADF, we are a community impacting measured grant making organization. That's number one. We have partnered with ECA in pursuit of one of the WGDP pillars. And as we saw earlier in your presentation, Special Advisor Ivanka Trump went through what the WGDP is designed to do. One of the things that we found is the greatest impediment was that what we call the missing middle, having access to capital to move forward. When I listen to the manner in which the Nutri-Food industry went back into her value chain and was able to use funds to not only bolster and promote and produce her product, but the impact in the community going back to the value chain. And that can only be done with resources. It can only be done with people coming forward and making sure that we touch various parts of the value chain. So that was the first thing. The second thing is networking and being able to convene with people who are like-minded, being able to pitch your ideas to people who might be willing to invest. And again, sticking to it. That stick-to-itiveness is what I hear through each of these stories. And I'm so excited about that, because these are strong women. These are talented women. These are women who, without some of the assistance that programs like AWE provide, would have had a much more difficult time going through their business. I personally believe that the three we've seen today would have succeeded anyway, because I saw the determination in their discussions about their businesses. But I think that the AWE program, designed to provide women with the skills, provide women with the knowledge and understanding of what they need to use to transfer their informal to the formal. I was particularly impressed with the discussion about the artisans, the informal artisans, being able to take their craft into the formal sector, designed to meet a problem, that being creating shoes that fit a community where it's not. I buy shoes in the US in one size, and in Great Britain, I buy in another size. And I know what both those sizes are. Our entrepreneur is exactly right that we need to educate and spread the information that we have an idea out here that fits a community that is what, 450 million people? So I say that to say, I'm excited to learn those kinds of things. What the AWE program has done, and USADF has done in partnering with the AWE program, is looking at those ideas, looking at the graduates who have come out of this program. They have developed a plan, they have developed an idea, they are seeking an audience to promote that idea. And what USADF has said is that if you have gotten that far, then we will meet you the rest of the way, and we will provide funding. We're not going to fund your business, but you will have the seed funding necessary so that you have the resources to promote your product. So that if you need to learn some different things from various corners, we can provide that. So we do provide funding as well as networking and information to assist the entrepreneur as she moves forward. what's really fantastic about the USADF partnership is that USADF is in 21 countries in Africa. We, in our first year of our program, we had a 10-country pilot program. And those countries were Kenya, Tanzania, Senegal, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Rwanda, and Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. We are pleased to announce that for year 2, we will expand that to Benin, Ethiopia, Malawi, and Cote d'Ivoire. And as we are committed through 2025, which is the life of the WGDP, to continue to work hand in hand with the R graduates and ECA at State Department to provide this kind of assistance to those entrepreneurs who have developed those ideas. So at this point, we have granted and awarded almost $200,000 in phase 1. And we are poised now to award almost $700,000 in phase 2. And the following year, we're hoping that we can expand and perhaps increase those dedicated funds to women entrepreneurs. My message to you and to the women that we're speaking with, and each of whom have had some interaction with USADF, is please continue with the persistence. That's the most impressive, and it will give you the greatest return, because you're always going to meet people who are going to say, I don't know. And you know what you say to them? You don't know, I do. Let's move forward, because we know that those women out there, I am so excited and I'm so pleased that you've selected a really rounded array of women and industries to promote women's empowerment. And the R program, in partnership with USADF, is a vital part of that. And I am available for questions. George, feel free to give my information to anyone who asks you. I will respond to information, questions, and various other things, because you have given these women, as well as myself, a platform that we just could not have gotten any other way. And it is going to be so important and so impactful to people who are listening. And that's why I took the time to name those countries. We have staff on the ground. You can go into our offices. You can contact, well, pandemic, you can't go a lot of places, but you can contact a lot of us, because we want to ensure that we play our part in the empowerment of women, because as go women, go the nation.
And what you just said is important. I'm glad that you're now in 4 more countries: Benin, Ethiopia,
Malawi, and Cote d'Ivoire.
Malawi and Cote d'Ivoire. And I'm sure young entrepreneurs in these countries are going to be ecstatic, because they're going to get a chance to also get more than funding. It's getting a chance to network with other entrepreneurs in the continent. The reason why we do this as Yebo is because our main goal is to unify the continent through conversation, through content, and through partnerships, because we believe if the continent comes together, we will be able to achieve great goals. So our Facebook audience can throw in questions. We will be reading some of the questions as the stream goes on, and we will be shooting those questions to the panel so that we can get answers. But for now, let me talk to Nobokusi. I'm interested in the value chain. When you talked about going back to empower women farmers to be able to produce more groundnuts, and then coming and, putting that together into peanut butter and taking it to the market. The biggest issue for wannabe entrepreneurs and every startup has been finance. How did you handle this challenge of finance before USADF came along?
It was a difficult one. So with the farmers, it started with a small group. I didn't have anything to offer them. I didn't have any money. So I'll just go there, and what I did was to create a platform for exchange of knowledge. So I'll go to my village, call the farmers, because I was buying groundnuts from them. So you'll discover that one farmer is producing more than the other farmers, but they have the same resources. So we'll just have a meeting whereby everyone shares their knowledge that, you know what, I'm doing well because I'm planting at a certain stage and I'm weeding my crop this way. So that platform for knowledge sharing made a difference to all the other farmers, because they always had a take home. So you learn something from someone who's doing better than you. You'll take, it's not always about the money, but just creating that platform for knowledge exchange made a difference to these farmers. I didn't have any money to give them. So what I did was fair trade. I didn't say because I'm now going to buy these groundnuts in the village, I'm going to buy them at, I didn't say because I was buying the groundnuts in the village, I'm going to buy them at lower price than the market value. What I did is fair trade. I would go there and pay the same price that I pay when I'm in the city. So I still went there and I paid the same price so that with the money they got, they could do something about it. They could pay their children's school fees and at the same time remain enough to plant for the next season. So I didn't have any way to get the money. Also, assisting me diversifying. I would come, I'm not an agronomist by profession, but most of the time I would read about things that I would want to go back and teach them. So I would advise them to diversify. When we're not growing groundnuts or harvesting them, I will tell them, let's plant this. It will give us, let's have a vegetable garden. It will give us money to sustain ourselves while we're waiting for the next planting season. So that's what we did. So we'd grow vegetables in between, like the green vegetables in between the groundnut planting season and time, till the time I got, so before the USADF had given me a grant, Vail Microfinance, the microfinance that I had worked with as well, also went back to the farmers and said to the farmers, you know what, I am the collateral to the farmers. So the farmers were to grow the groundnuts and sell them to me. But before I pay the farmers the money for groundnuts, I'm supposed to pay Vail the loan amount. So they called a value chain financing, whereby they will fund the farmers will sell to me. But on the day when I'm going to pay the farmers, I'm having an agent for Vail Microfinance who then collects their share and the farmers get their share. Till the time when the USADF in 2016, that's when we then got a grant from the USADF that we used for the planting season for that year, which was a good one because everyone managed from 20%, people moved up to 60% of their productivity because now they were getting a fresh seed. Because all along they had been recycling their seed and they could not afford to get a huge loan because they, seasons started changing as well. When seasons change and the farmers are not knowledgeable enough to know that the seasons have changed and the rain patterns have changed. So yes, it was a difficult one. I didn't have the money. I just did knowledge sharing till a time when I had people who were willing to then go back and do value chain.
Having you as collateral financing and that value chain financing looks like a very interesting model, but I'm sure it's one that made you sweat every now and then. And especially if whatever you're producing, or rather whatever the farmers were producing was not sellable, or there was not a ready market for it, must have been very, very tough for you on a daily basis. But what I enjoy about what you just said is you enabled a platform for farmers to share knowledge and for farmers to have a knowledge exchange. It's similar to something that Njeri spoke about when she was speaking about training the artisans. Njeri, when penetrating the market, you've trained the artisans, you've helped artisans, even in the informal sector, get to a level that is advisable or is expectable for you to be selling these shoes. But how do you make the shoe product penetrate to the market? How hard was it to help VaKenya be a sellable brand and a brand that people will go on and on to accept and to wear and to pay for?
Well, My biggest challenge when penetrating the market was the stigma that was related to local made shoes. There is this stigma that local made shoes made in Kenya are usually low quality. These had usually been as a result of most of the local shoes are from the informal sector, where these artisans are mostly pitted by brokers against each other in terms of prices. So in the effort to be the lowest bidder, it led to the quality going down because you can't keep taking your prices lower while maintaining the quality where it was. So local products have always been associated with low quality, and that was a very big challenge that I faced when trying to get Vakenya into the market. I remember when we actually settled for the name, for the brand name Vakenya, it was specifically for that reason. We needed to destigmatize this. Like Vakenya is a Swahili word which translates to where Kenya. Like we were here to tell them that these are Kenyan shoes and they're actually high quality shoes. But I think the main reason why our brand was actually sellable, it was because we were not selling a product, but rather we were selling a solution. As Mbatho said, like if you're not solving any problem, then you do not have a business. So what we were doing as Vakenya, we were here to solve a specific problem. We were here to actually make sure we were actually solving a why that most Africans could relate with. As Melvenia said that she has shoes with different sizes. Don't you think it would be dignifying if an African will just go to the shop and ask for a size 10, like meaning like a size 10 which is African, because most people don't even know their shoe sizes. Some are like, I have a shoe which is size 42, I have another one which is 8.5, I have another one which is 9. I don't know what my shoe size is. What they don't know is that these are different standard sizes from different places. Wouldn't it be dignifying? For example, when you buy a shoe, you usually find a small marker there where you have it's written UK 8, US 9, and EU 42, something like that. So why don't we have our standard sizes where now the market or whoever are producing the shoes translate that? Wouldn't it be dignifying for that? Wouldn't it be dignifying for any African to get a shoe which is in their size, regardless of whichever size, not have a size that does not fit the standard sizes just because we do not have our own standard sizes? So it was all about creating a solution for a problem that is relatable to our target market. Not just selling a shoe. We were not selling a shoe, but we are selling dignity for Africans. And that for me is what made our brand relatable in the market.
Trust me, it's relatable also with me. I absolutely relate with the fact that you're not just selling a solution, you're selling some personality, you're selling a feeling, you're selling something that someone owns, you're selling a value, which is dignity. And that's really, really important. Someone who is also selling dignity is Brenda. Brenda, I know you again are relating with some of the things that Jerry is speaking about, or rather is talking of. When you sell a solution, she spoke about the first time she went to the market, the perception of customers was that locally made products are of low quality. I remember you saying even your first product, you were not sort of proud of it, the way it came out. But did you face the same challenge of people looking at Wazi Vision as a low product solution?
Absolutely, and I feel like Jerry just keeps, tapping into the book of Wazi and taking it to VAR Kenya, 100% I relate. And, it's very interesting when I see people and they see the glasses, they're like, this is made in Uganda? Like, their reaction is priceless. Wait, it's made from recycled plastic? No. And it's quite interesting when you see those reactions until you actually show them how you do it, and they and then they start wondering, like, oh my God, we didn't realize we had something like this here. I will say for sure, in the beginning, even I felt like we weren't quite at par, but we've learned through the process. And now when you see Chinese products coming in, there's always that perception in Uganda that if it came from outside of the borders of Uganda, then it must be good quality. And if it's made in Uganda, then it can't possibly be good. And people keep asking, and they're very suspicious that, if I take it, won't it break in about 2 days? It's too flexible, it's too light. But then the flexibility and the lightness is done intentionally. We do that intentionally because we want it to be light. We want the glasses to be light, and you don't need these kinds of things on your nose as marks to show everybody that you wear glasses. All that is intentional. But in a market like this, when they relate the lightness to quality, and they don't believe that we have brilliant people, brilliant engineers that can actually bring this to life. So 100%, I absolutely believe in that. But what we have done over time is the more that you tell your story and the more that you actually work on the visibility of your brand, when people see a billboard or they see something in the newspaper or they see Forbes has run a story, and then they'll say, oh, I think I also want to pick up this, I want to wear it. And there's a government initiative now, it's called BUBU, it's called Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. And we ride on that, and it's funny because my nickname is Bubu, so I like to joke a lot about it, that they had me in mind as they were thinking about this slogan. So it's starting to seep into, procurement systems in the government and other, government authorities. So people are starting to pay attention. And Corona, it gave us the opportunity to actually, because the borders were closed, the supply chains were disrupted. So what happened is locally, local producers then got their chance to actually say, hey, we are also making these. And then because people don't quite have an option, they try. And when they try, they realize that, oh my God, all along we had something this good and valuable. So I know it's going to take time, but we will get there. I 100% have belief.
I believe, and that's something that I absolutely also wish for you. May you get there where you want to get. We'll be getting a few minutes onto our Facebook comment section to check whether there are any questions. But let me talk to Bato. Of course, entrepreneurship is about creating solutions and that are convenient for people. In this panel so far, we've seen, especially Njeri and Novokusi and even Brenda, talk about the solutions that they've created. But something has come up, the perception, especially of where we live, the perception that things that are made in this continent are not at par and everyone prefers to get things from outside. In your motto and mantra, Bato, of creating the best life possible for people, how have you overcome the challenge of people looking at your solutions as low quality?
I think one thing I've learned from entrepreneurship, George, that entrepreneurship is a journey, right? I was listening to Njeri and Brenda go on earlier, and they spoke about at one point they weren't happy with their product. And I think this is something that everyone needs to recognize, that sometimes you have to launch, pilot, and then work on improving the product, And I'll give you a great, when we launched Redshift, we built Redshift in 32 hours. In 32 hours, we built an online shopping platform. We launched it. We weren't happy with the product at that point, but we knew that if we didn't launch it, somebody else would launch it, and that person would not be African. And so we just launched, right? Then what we did from there, we built it in 32 hours. I think like 2 hours after we launched, the website went viral. 2 days after that, we received funding for it. And then we used that funding to improve the platform, right? And we could make it into what everyone sees now as a better, improved platform, and where we've integrated WhatsApp and we've integrated all the feedback that we got from everyone. And so I would really say, there's also a perception that, African goods aren't as, or African products aren't as good quality as. The only reason that Africans do that is because we've also given them that perception, because we've all done it at one point in time and said, African goods aren't good enough. And we have to lead by example. So if I'm an African entrepreneur promoting African goods, I should be then, ensuring that I promote other African entrepreneurs in all ways possible, right? Because I should lead by example. And it's about time we started changing that narrative in Africa, that Africa is capable. If anything, we've always been the people who have built the solutions, but because we haven't trusted ourselves enough, the Western world has come over and overtaken and taken our solutions and made it their own, right? And so many times I always say to people, we've always had the solutions, but we're so afraid to launch or so afraid to take it out to the market because we think people don't trust African products. But we have to have the guts to launch. Launch, even when you're not ready. Launch, because you'll never be ready. You'll never be ready. Your product will never be perfect. The journey of entrepreneurship is constantly improving your product, constantly improving your business. And so I always say, as a business owner, if you get to a point where you can sit back and say, oh, my product is the best, then you know something's wrong. Then you need to go back to your drawing board, because that's when you should be afraid. You've gotten to a point where you are so complacent that you think you're the best, because you're never the best, right? We're always on a journey of improving our products, always on a journey to improving our businesses, our business systems. Everything that we do is always about improving. Georgie, unmute. Georgie, unmute.
I'm saying you just sounded like our founder. He is very keen on launching and constantly improving the product. So I absolutely get where you're coming from. But Melvinia, this must be also a challenge. At the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs, most of these amazing women come with the goal of starting a business. But there also is a challenge when it comes to taking the product to the market. If you give seed funding, and then the product has been produced, but when you go to the market, then there's this very big challenge that comes of acceptability of the product in the market. How do you solve that? Sorry, you're on mute.
I apologize.
I think all of us have to get used to Corona and unmuting and muting ourselves.
I know. That's a very, very interesting perspective. And I think what Bato is saying is absolutely correct. Number one, the timing factor should be determined more so by you're pushing your ideas than you're being concerned that you've got so much more work to do. And she's absolutely right. Now, with USADF and seed funding, you're right. We provide that level of funding so that women can move forward with their product. However, what we have also found is that throughout that process, we need to be able to provide aid and assistance with respect to business development, marketing, packaging, getting those things done. As you may know, there is an all-government push within the United States right now, within the administration, to enhance and improve two-way trade between Africa and the United States. And a part of our USADF philosophy is we've got to jump in there because we are, as created by Congress, Africa focused. All of our grants and assistance can only go to African-owned, operated, totally African-faced businesses. And so we do take very seriously that enabling factor for African businesses to work with African businesses to make the product something that will go across boundaries. You have two audiences in terms of product. And Mbatha is right. You have the internal African audience who might scratch their head and say, I might prefer European glasses rather than those glasses made at home. But then you have the diaspora market as well. And one of our success stories is we had a grantee to whom we gave funds very early on in their business, a shea butter business. And then later on, we were able to provide funds to expand that business. And that product is now in over 1,000 Target stores in the United States. So I say that to say that you're right. We cannot look at the seed funding as the end of that process to ensure that the businesses survive. We have products from DRC, coffee products going into one of the major coffee cafe companies here in the United States. So one of the things that we do is to ensure that we take a grantee and we make it our business to ensure that we've provided the resources and the information that they've needed. I've had meetings in various venues with port authorities. And my question oftentimes is very simple. We've got the diaspora community here in the United States who have created a demand and a market for African food items, African clothes items, various other things. What kinds of things do we need to focus on the continent to ensure that we're aiding and assisting, elevating that product so that it can enter the US market? And every time I tell the Target story, people are a little bit amazed because that is a wholly, and all of her workers are women in Ghana. They work with the shea nuts. It's a fabulous testament to the fact that women with those kinds of ideas can indeed create products that will elevate the value and the perception of that product in the continent, vis-a-vis other continent, as well as outside. With the shoes, the same thing. It is not uncommon to go into a US shoe store and find shoes that are sized by Great Britain sizes, sized by US sizes, sized by Australian sizes. So yes, we can accommodate those with African sizes. So I say that to say, these are the kinds of ideas that the R program and USADF are designed to continue to promote, to provide a tool, as Mbate says, to have a tool so that your idea solves a problem. And as long as your idea continues to do that, then we can continue to work toward a market that allows that product to compete and the environment to allow you to move that product both home. We have another grantee to whom we've given funds who had a business and he was making his items for local consumption. And he turned around with our assistance and made arrangements pre-pandemic, of course, made arrangements so that the airline would transport his product regionally. Once again, elevating both the value and the perception of that locally made product with locally sourced supplies. I mean, the benefits are just exponential when you do that. When you consider locally supplied production, you have injected funds, resources, training, networking across the entire spectrum of development. And that, again, speaks to people's perception and the quality of the item that you're producing. So yes, absolutely. We take very seriously and are always open to other kinds of suggestions as to how can we meet that need. Because you're right, it's a very real perception in terms of the value and the quality of a locally made item.
What you mentioned is really, really important. And I'd just like to, I know our time is almost up, but I'd just like to get a sense from our panel today. Melvinia, you've talked about the diaspora market. I don't know, let me just start with Njeri. Have you probably looked at getting VAR Kenya globally or rather internationally outside Kenya if there are opportunities to sell Va Kenya in Sweden or in America or, you know, in South Africa, is that something that either you've tried or you're looking at? And are there any challenges that you're facing? Sorry, Jerry, you're on mute.
Sorry, come again, George.
My question was, Melvini has just talked about the diaspora market, the market that is outside Africa. If perception in Africa is a problem, as we work as entrepreneurs, as we work through that, is Va Kenya looking at diversifying the availability of its product to other countries, maybe Sweden or America or even South Africa?
Well, our target market is basically the African market. We are dignifying African fit. We are doing it for Africans. What we're doing right now, what we say, it is very important to have a local win and a global vision. So what we're trying to do right now is first to be able to have a local win here in Kenya. We have 42 tribes. If we can figure out these 42 tribes, we are all Africans and we're all the same people. We definitely can replicate this anywhere else in Africa, but we have to actually have a local win first. We actually have to be able to cater for all the feet that are here in this country. Then once we are able to cater for the Kenyan market, we cannot replicate this all over Africa. And we believe that there are informal artisans all across Africa with their own unique sense of style and shoemaking and all that. We can replicate that across Africa. Africa is basically our target market. If we happen to explore the diaspora, it is still going to be for the Africans in the diaspora because our target is the African fit. We are dignifying African fit.
Interesting.
Sorry, George?
Yes.
Can I just chip in there, please?
Yes.
And I liked just what Jerry had said just now, you know, but one thing about Africans that we also need to change this narrative that every time we come up with a product or business solution, our biggest dream is always to take it out of Africa and into the Western world, right? Whilst we live on the second largest continent on the earth, and we've got the second largest population on the earth, surely that should mean something. Surely should mean that the growth, the prosperity, the money should be in here. We should be targeting our own continent first because we've got more people. That means our solution is more viable to more people, right? So I think we also need to start changing that narrative that, you know, we define a success as your product going to the Western world. So if you say that, oh, my product is available in the US, in Europe, and wherever, people are like, oh, this is great, right? Whilst one thing we could learn actually from the Chinese, that the Chinese number one target first is the Asians, because Asia is the biggest, is the largest continent. Then they come into Africa. They hardly go into Europe and the US, because they know that that is where the largest markets are. And in fact, the narrative that there's no money in Africa is not true. Africa has the largest youth population on the earth. Surely the future is here. And so we should be targeting first for this continent before we go anywhere else.
I totally love what you've just said. And that, I think, leaves entrepreneurs like yourselves with ways to use the knowledge that you have to package products that will be acceptable or find marketing ways to reach out to these second largest markets in the world. I totally you've left me speechless with very important. Yeah.
Adding up on that, let us not forget that Africa has a population of 1.2 billion people. and it is majorly a consumer continent. Africa is majorly a consumer continent. We import way more than we export. So why aren't we making products to actually serve these consumers? Because we are majorly a consumer. For example, I'll give you an example with shoes. In Kenya, we have an annual consumption of 34 million pairs annually, and yet the local production capacity stands at 4 million pairs, meaning that 30 million pairs are actually imported. So why aren't we serving these consumers? And also you're going to realize that most of the things that are made in Africa, we actually have good things that are made in Africa, but they are mostly exported. Things leave Africa, they export it to the West, then they come back here at 3 times or 4 times the price. So why not just sell them directly to the Africans? We are supposed to break that. We are supposed to break that. It's like a bondage or something, like everything, like to feel that you have succeeded, you have to be selling to the Western countries. No, sell to Africans. Let Africans know that Africa actually has nice products that they can actually enjoy themselves and at affordable prices.
Well, let me ask a quick question, and I'm interested in the perspective. And the diaspora conversation, I guess, is larger in another context. But how do you see the African Continental Free Trade Agreement meeting the kinds of things that you're talking about in terms of allowing African products to be marketed solely to African continent? Does the promise of that free trade agreement, which is indeed continental wide, and it is launched and they've got negotiations going on, how do you see that as a policy shift and as a narrative shift, as you've spoken, to meeting your desire to focus on a continental wide marketing strategy before a open marketing strategy? And I just want to say that I think diaspora-focused kinds of marketing is still marketing to Africans. They're just not on the continent. So I'm curious as to how you see the free trade agreement that will be continental-wide. And you're right, it will open up the largest unified trading bloc on earth, that African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And it will allow goods to move between African countries with the kind of ease, effectiveness, and cost effectiveness that could make a difference to your marketing. So someone can speak to that, all three of you, because you've got products right there. So I'm curious about that.
Maybe we can start with Nobokusi. Nobokusi, do you see the AFCTA working for your for your peanut business to go across the continent?
I would want it to. I was actually saying to my team the other day, one of the strategies we're looking at for the coming year is export. We want to tap into the export market. But before I answer to that, I want to go back to the two ladies, Mabato and Jerry, what they were talking about, that people should buy African and we should sell African and we should sell to each other. I was just going to say, I'll give you an example for Zimbabwe. People buy groceries in South Africa. But I tell you, NutriFoods makes sugar beans, we make peanut butter, we have marmalade jam, we have mixed fruit jam, we've got a range of products that people can buy locally. But you'll see them importing those products from South Africa. So it's a mentality within us Africans, within us Zimbabweans, to think that a product from another country is superior from a locally made product. And it's something that we have to do, that we're supposed to do as young people. It's not going to happen overnight. We actually need a proper mindset shift to make people understand that our products are even better. All products are good, but our products are even better. Let's support local. If one way to grow our economy, it needs to start at home. If you go into 5 households in this country, I will tell you that you'll find everyone is using cooking oil that they have imported. But we have locally made cooking oil. We've got locally made peanut butter. Why are we importing those products? So we need a mindset shift. But going back to exporting, it's exciting for me. I want to sell my product locally, and I know that I cannot finish the Zimbabwean market. But at the same time, I want my brand to be acknowledged the whole of Africa. I would want to sell it in South Africa. I want to sell it in Zambia. I want to sell it in Nigeria, and I want to sell it internationally as well. So next year, the strategy for NutriFoods, we want to go regional. So we want to sell our product to all the to SADC first before we infiltrate to the other African countries. I like the free trade that's coming through because it will enable us to trade properly without any embargoes or any a lot of paperwork that's needed for you to just move your product from here to South Africa.
And you talk about something important, which is red tape. Brenda, how do you see the FCTA impacting, especially with the removal of a lot of red tape in countries, impact the WASI vision?
I absolutely love the conversation going on here, and you know, all the four ladies are I just feel very energized right now. But I'll speak to that. Actually, for me, it excites me. And it comes back to what Nabukosi was talking about, the perception of your brand. In Uganda, people once, if they heard, look, it took Forbes to write about, if you're written about in the new vision in Uganda, everybody's like, everybody can get into the new vision. When Forbes write about you, then everybody's like, oh my God, you're on CNN, you're on BBC, but the local media is writing about you, or is airing interviews about you, and nobody really cares. It's really a perception here that we have to break, right? So if they hear that, oh my God, you're selling in Target, then they will assume that just because your brand is associated abroad, it's actually sort of like an indicator that you can sell locally here. Is you just have to ramp up capacity and make sure that you can serve both markets. Just because I'm serving Africa doesn't mean I cannot send my product to the US. And I remember last year, I had a conversation with one of USADF's grantees selling her products in Walgreens. And even I was like, wow, you got into Walgreens. How can I get into Walgreens too? Of course, that comes down to, you know, do I have the capacity to be able to serve a market like that? But let's not also forget, when I did a small market research with actually students from University of Maryland helped us do research, they were willing to pay above $100 for my product, right? I'm charging below $20 in Uganda, and my product is cheaper because I know that we can't afford. Yeah. So it's between a rock and a hard place. Do you tap into the market that's paying you more as a business person so that you can expand and grow, or do you keep it Africa, strictly Uganda, so that you can, you know, grow that in a very small way? For me, I look at it as an opportunity, and it's definitely something, you know, in a couple of years I'd be happy to tap into. And yeah, Melvina, I think I might reach out to you real soon.
Well, by all means, reach out. Once again, and George, I'm so happy that you allowed us to have that exchange, because perhaps the discussion around what the diaspora market means to African entrepreneurs is a worthy one, primarily because I agree that you can sell in both of them. And I'm not sure that we've had that discussion to that extent. But please know that from a USADF perspective, from an R perspective, from an empowerment and having an enhanced perspective for women entrepreneurs, I'm prepared and to provide whatever resources or information that I can to go ahead and do that. I agree completely that your market is valuable, your market is close, proximity provides you with various kinds of advantages. And of course, you would be remiss to say, I'm focusing outward only. But I also think like these are such valuable ideas, and there are such valuable markets that as you continue to grow, that it is my hope that that would be a discussion that you would want to have with respect to the product and the commodities that you have. So by all means, I'm available for whatever questions you may have, whatever stories you'd like to hear, and however we can contribute to the development of the women entrepreneur on the African continent.
But George?
Yes.
I just want to comment on the policy quickly. And the Africa trade policy is a great one, right? But I think a lot of work still needs to be done when that policy gets implemented. And just having, my business works in M&E, and we do a lot of work that influences policy. And the one thing that I know about new policies being implemented, people on the ground are not educated about them, right? And what the benefits are, but also how it can be inclusive for them, right? Policies are always sort of composed by people who sit in higher places, and they're not really in touch with people on the ground. And I think one of the things that we've all learned from just having worked in implementation is that first you need to really educate your market as to why this is happening and what benefit it is to them, so that when you introduce it, they can benefit from it. And I think a large part of it also needs to focus on female entrepreneurs, right? Just one, being female is already a huge barrier being in business. Two, being a female of color is another barrier. So we do not only have to almost like step over one barrier, but we have two barriers to step over, by the fact that we are female and we are Black, right? And so this policy should then speak to us to say, how will it benefit us as one, African entrepreneurs, but two, as female entrepreneurs of color on the continent? And I think a lot of this needs to really, people who are policymakers need to really start educating people about what a policy is really and how it's going to benefit them, and that it's not just something that's out there, because there are a lot of policies that we have on the continent, but many people haven't seen the benefits of them. They are still policies on paper, but not policies that are being implemented. And so a huge part of that needs to be first through an education awareness of some sort, an outreach program of some sort that really educates African entrepreneurs on how they can benefit from the policy.
Trust me, this feels like a very unfinished conversation. So don't be surprised if I request for another date so that we can discuss this for a longer time. My producer is on my neck. We are overboard with time, but it was a valuable conversation. So thank you very much, Bato.
George, I feel like we need to add just one more thing.
Yes. Yes.
George,
just briefly,
about the after agreement. Yes, I'm going to be very brief. I think it's going to come a very long way to changing the mentality of Africans about African-made products. Because how do you expect a kid from Kenya who has literally never bought a product that is written made in Zimbabwe or made in Nigeria? We just see made in China, made in Italy, made in America. How are they supposed to know that Africa actually has nice products? And not because it was not because we do not have nice products. It was because we actually had huge trade barriers that made the products made in different parts of Africa not be available across all Africa. So I think the after trade agreement is the best thing that has ever happened to Africans. And I look forward to the big opening that it's going to create for African entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. One thing that I really hope will be a shift on the continent is the two barriers that Bato spoke about, being a woman and being a woman of color, because let's face it, women are the biggest consumers and spenders. So if we empower women entrepreneurs, we are making the economy very fluid, because money will be circulating every now and then. So I wish all of you the very best in your personal journeys, in entrepreneurship, in business. May you get the customers that you are after, and may the continent accept you with open arms. So thank you very much for making time on this panel. Thank you, Bato. Thank you, Njeri. Thank you, Nobokusi. Thank you, Brenda. And thank you, Melvinia, for this chance. And I look forward to talking to you again soon and hosting you on such a discussion, because this is a discussion that is needed on the continent. Do have a lovely weekend and take care of yourselves. And we will leave you with a tease of our next series that starts next week. Enjoy and have a lovely time, and stay safe.